Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda.
And we're excited to be with you today. We wanted to share with you some information that we gleaned from Dr. Carolyn Leaf's book, Who Switched Off Your Brain?
Let's talk about anger. So, men and women are different in the way they express when they get angry.
And obviously, understanding our partner's expression and how that differs from ours can really help us reduce conflict in our marriage. So let's look at the man. He physically expresses his anger. He has a greater ability to control his emotions before they get out of hand. But once angry, he tends to experience emotion physically and express them by swinging his arms, pacing, or walking around. And a wife will need to give her husband time to cool down to release his emotions before continuing the discussion.
For a woman, when she gets angry, she expresses verbally. She tends to express, once out of control, her centers for reasoning and emotion aren't functioning properly, causing her to become stimulated to release a host of words. A husband, though, can help his wife control her emotions to keep hormones and chemicals in the brain balanced, allowing her to calm down. He has the ability to calm her wife by listening to her and allowing her to talk it through. As she connects with her husband, her pleasure and reward centers become activated, having a calming effect for her.
Wow. Just understanding this one little part of how we relate to each other can help us to de-escalate the moment.
It can. And so for the man, he may need to go for a walk. He may need to go to the gym. Once a line is crossed, the heart rate and breathing rate have picked up. Now our bodies are involved. That means those chemicals in the brain are surging, and we need about, 17 minutes-ish to unwind, to de-escalate. Not a good time to be talking because we are likely in a state of amygdala hijack at that moment where now the brain is saying danger, danger, and thinking the spouse is the one attacking and seeing everything from that moment forward as if an enemy were saying it. Not a good time, right? To try to process through something.
We have to understand our vulnerability. For each of us, it's vulnerable in different areas. It's going to express differently.
Right,
and,
right.
I think for the man, realizing, the wife realizing that she's going to need to give her husband time to cool down is important.
And we hear sometimes that a woman will keep pushing. He might say something. He might withdraw. He might go quiet. And for a man, this is a noble thing. He knows what's going on inside, and he's not wanting to go there. And he may go quiet to get control of the situation, of himself. It's a good time to back off, but sometimes women will keep pushing. No, if we don't talk about it now, we'll never talk about it. Of course, he can prevent that by coming back later and showing, we'll talk about it, but not now. Of course, she can be the one also that needs to pull out, because when she gets flooded with a host of words, that's not good either.
Yeah, we need to realize when we need to pause a conversation, come back to it, wait maybe at least 30 minutes, come back maybe hours or the next day and just, hey, we will finish talking about this, but I think we need to take a break right now.
We like to recommend that couples be self-aware. No, before this gets out of hand, not when you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. Be aware. First step would be offer for the spouse to shift, to get off your triggers. They can or won't. They're an adult. But we need to agree to table it if there's not a shift, if we can't rein that in that moment. Whoever becomes aware first can request the shift politely.
Use the phrase in there about releasing a host of words. And, I think that's something to be able to ask a question in a moment when something negative is taking place. Hey, it feels like that you're agitated right now. What's going on? How can I help? What can I say? What can I do that will help you in this moment?
To attempt to calm that moment and reduce the stress. I'm so sorry. I feel I've done something that has triggered you. How can we rewind and correct this and go forward?
You know, in this same area of anger, there's a couple of other differences we want to talk about, and that is for the husband is he typically has a more rapid onset and cool down. He gets angry quickly because his circuitry through his control center is shorter than hers. He cools down quickly because his cortisol levels subside within the hour. A wife can help her husband by backing off verbally and allowing him to have space to calm down.
That's huge.
Yeah.
The backing off. It's huge that a woman can go quiet, can control the words. We expect if his motor centers are stimulated, he will control himself physically. Well, guess what? If her verbal centers are stimulated, she should control herself verbally to allow that cool down for him. When arguing, cortisol, a chemical released from the adrenal glands intermittently in small amounts, is released in large quantities. It takes only an hour for cortisol levels to subside in a man. Because of the strong neurochemical change in the brain, the impact of the argument on the woman is almost like that of a seizure. It takes 12 hours for cortisol levels to subside in a woman.
You know, I think sometimes when we understand God actually wired us differently, there is different circuitry, there's different, amounts of circuitry there. We're not saying by any means that one is better or lesser than the other, but we're saying there is a difference in in what takes place in the way that we perceive things.
And can you see why, for so long after an argument, a woman is still dealing with all the emotion?
Yeah.
The cortisol levels are still high for her. And for a man to blame and accuse her because she won't let go, she won't forgive, she's simply recovering from where they both allowed themselves to go.
And she could wish that she could get over it more quickly, or wish that she could get over it and just shut it off like he does. But she's different. And so that a man can actually have, compassion on his wife and something like that, and realize, she's not just like me. She needs some help. How can I help you work through processing this event?
And while she's recovering from the event, she could give a verbal, I agree that we're okay. I just need some space right now. Sometimes verbalizing can go a long way. For a woman, it has a slower onset. She has a slower onset and cool down. She has longer circuitry through her control center, causing her to get angry slowly. But once angry, she finds it more difficult to calm down because of this. We already said that about the seizure. Dr. Carolyn Leaf said, your goal isn't to suppress anger, ignore it, or hope it goes away on its own. Avoiding conflict completely is just as toxic and unhealthy in the long run as constantly bickering and tearing each other down. There's a healthy way to deal with anger that will ultimately make your relationships more honest and intimate. When you can recognize your differences and shape your expectations, you're free to receive the benefits that properly processed anger can provide: greater understanding, greater honesty, greater connections, greater health, and most of all, greater love for one another.
I think that's our hope, right? Is that we can look in a calm way at what agitated one or both of us in a given situation and be able to talk about it without having so much escalation and agitation toward each other. And I think at the core of that is valuing my partner's experience.
And I think when you think about anger is a sign that something happened. Because when we have these emotions, there are some thoughts going on underneath that support that emotion. It's an expression of something that's not right underneath the surface. If we look at that, what's not right? Likely we were triggered.
I think there's such a beautiful way that we can blend together as a couple when we validate each other's experience and what's going on and be able to say, what can I do to help in this situation?
There's a couple of scriptures I really love on this topic. In Ephesians 4:26, in your anger, do not sin. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry.
And then James 1:19, understand this, my dear brothers, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. I hope there's some things in here, I believe there are some things that you can apply to your marriage that will help you